Welcome to Module 2 of Police and Gang Interdiction. In this particular module, we're going to look at exactly how do academics research gangs. So the first thing we're going to look at is really two kinds of research that is done on the phenomenon of gangs. Now these comments apply to a lot of kinds of criminological, sociological, psychological research. The first is the ethnographic fieldwork. The second is the data collection. Challenges to fieldwork. Researchers are usually well-educated, middle class. Gang members aren't. So there's some disconnect right from the beginning as the observer has little in common with the subjects of the observations. Gang members are usually unreliable subjects. They, for a whole host of reasons, may boast, may lie. They really are prepared to tell quite outrageous stories for the researcher. Safety. Some of the places where we want these researchers to go to research gangsters really isn't that safe for them. Finally, one of the things that's always of concern when we're looking at any kind of research is, does the presence of the researcher alone have an impact on what they're observing? And it's very hard to not have that have some impact on exactly what they're seeing. I have to admit, several years ago I was asked to take a researcher from Simon Fraser University out. When this researcher arrived, I knew that the subject of their research was going to be something along the lines of, do we need more police officers? So I knew that night I was going to make sure I worked as hard as I possibly could, and dinner was going to be a Subway sandwich driven on our way to a call. The researcher clearly saw, and luckily for us, it was one of those nights. The curse of the ride-along wasn't there that night. We started out with a home invasion and ended the night with a Code 5 vehicle stop. It was a great night for the researcher, but the presence of the researcher clearly had an impact on what we were seeing. This is the same for gang research. Fieldwork. Fieldwork, while challenging, provides great insights even if we must cautiously consider the results. In this module, you have the opportunity to watch a short YouTube video with a researcher who wrote a book called Gang Leader for a Day. This particular researcher was a student of sociology at Chicago University and ventured unwittingly into a gang area. The gang kept him hostage for the first 24 hours. They believed him to be a rival Mexican gang leader. From that, he developed relationships, and eventually he won the trust of the gang, and he spent a year with them. We don't have time to read his entire book in this class, but we can watch a short video, and I'd like you to comment in the forums specifically about the safety level of this research and whether or not this research has validity. With fieldwork, the great results, we do have to be cautious how we consider the results. When we are researching gangs, we look at the surveys. One of the greatest places that researchers want to come are police departments. Police departments have their own definitions of what a gang is. So is the sample of the police department accurate? Could there be problems with the identification by one police department of something versus the police department of another area? There are a lot of police departments that the chief really doesn't want to admit maybe that there's a gang problem. We're fortunate that we don't have a chief like that. He's prepared to say publicly there is a gang war. A snowball sample is another kind of research. In that, the researcher basically says, now that I've talked to you, can you think of somebody else I should talk to? Does that sound very familiar to when you were going through the recruiting process? Another type is a broadly administered survey. Large groups of youth are surveyed, and then from that they make their results of their own self-identification as gang members. Obviously, this is problematic in that some may self-identify themselves as gang members when in fact they're not. In addition, where are these studies usually conducted? A lot of these gang members, the ones that we want to survey, are the ones that actually aren't coming to class because they're the ones who are the high school dropouts. Identification of a gang. If we as academics struggle with the definition of a gang, We as police officers struggle with the definition of a gang. How is it that we can put onto a youth without any formal training about what a gang is and ask them, are you a gang member? It's clear that those studies and the research from that could be terribly flawed. Finally, self-identification as a gang member by youth clearly doesn't necessarily mean that they're a gang member, and they may not be a gang member as we define one. Surveys are important to consider the sampling design. Who were they asking? Selection and wording of indicators of gang membership is also equally important. Relevance to the population being surveyed. If the survey population has no connection to the results of the survey, then the interest level in the survey could be hampered. This is a great example of what I'm talking about. For example, the LA Police Department, the LAPD, and the LA Sheriff's Department define a gang homicide when either assailant or the victim is a gang member. Failing clear identification, motive, garb, characteristic, gang behavior, or attribution by a witness. If a witness says it was a gang shooting, the person dies, it's a gang homicide for the LAPD, the LA County Sheriff's Department. For Chicago, it's only a gang homicide if the shooting, the homicide occurs with a clear function of the gang activity. So a gang member in Los Angeles who shot and killed is a gang homicide. In Chicago, if a gang member happened to be walking past a place and gets shot, but it has nothing to do with the fact that they are involved in a gang, that's not a gang homicide. We finished this module. I hope you've had the opportunity to read the social research paper that was asked for by the academic validating this course. It's in this module. There's also a short quiz based on the reading material. I know this material is very academic, and I hope you're staying with us. I know that it's been many years for a lot of you, including myself, from walking the halls of Simon Fraser University, and I know that the reading can be sometimes very dry. But as we move forward, now that we've looked at where the academics get their definitions of a gang, this will put us on a much stronger foothold for our own examinations. Thank you very much.